Okay, this is Bailey Heichman's final on her Foundations of Education class, and I took Laura's advice and I decided to do this over audio because you said that if you're an English person, then sometimes you spend the whole time fixing grammar and English and stuff, and you would rather us just talk to you, and so I think I'm going to do that. I guess I'm supposed to synthesize on what I learned in this course and what this learning community did for me, and there's a lot. I just feel like this class was something that was like a game changer for me, and honest to God, it was a game changer that I didn't really believe in the very beginning, and I don't know why, and that makes me upset with myself because it ended up being so great. But the first thing is obviously the learning community, and I know that was something that was like really important to you and something that you really tried your hardest to make really special, and I think you did that. Like I said from the beginning, I didn't really think that it would be this way. I just kind of thought we would be friends and we'd probably wave at each other in the hallway, but I didn't think the relationships would be the way that they are, and I also didn't think that it would end up being like a release for me, and it wouldn't be a place like a classroom that I could go to and feel safe in and feel like I knew all the people around me and that they were all going to make me better in some sort of way. Not only did I like see them around and wave at them, but it was so much more of like I wanted to stop and talk to them about what we did in class that day or how this was going or what they were going to do for their upcoming facilitation, and like that's something that I don't have in any of my other classes that I didn't even put in that. And I think more than that too, it showed all of us as we become future teachers like how big of a role that the teacher plays in creating that learning community, and it was all because of you, and it was all because of the things that you did for us that made us all like want to be there and want to become closer, and it wouldn't have happened without you. So that's a really cool thing for me to see. It was noticeable too how you like made us buy in early as students. From the very beginning, it was very obvious on the first day that this class was going to take buy-in to work, and we all did it and we all ran with it. And I think as a future teacher, that taught me that it's got to start from the first day, and it has to be this constant flow of the same expectations and the same support to your students, or they won't soak it in as easily as they could. I see myself doing the accountability buddies in my future class. We were all so accountable for missing days, and the one day of class I did miss and I had to text my accountability buddy and tell him that I wouldn't be there. I was sad that I wasn't going to be there, and he did it, and they created this weird camaraderie that we all were on the same team and we all were going through the same things, and we had a buddy going through it with us. I think another part of the learning community too is we just always knew that we could trust you, and you never fell through on anything or never didn't do something that you said you were going to do. And I think that's so important, is being so accountable to your word and being so trustworthy, because it made us all more comfortable with you and in being in the classroom, and you knew from day one who we were with those personal profiles. And I know one day I want to do that in my class as well, because I can't even imagine how much more you learned about us just from that, and you could cater the way that you spoke to each one of us and taught each one of us. And I just want that nice learning community that I already have developed as I walk into the classroom, for them to know where I'm at, and I have the ability to know where they are all at. I also think that when it comes to the learning community and the way that we worked, and I think back on the fact that our grades honestly all depended on the amount of participation that everybody else was giving, and that's what fueled our teachings, that's what fueled our facilitations, that's what fueled all of our teaching opportunities. And it was we had no idea who each other were before, and why would we care about each other's grades before, but then at the end it was I want you to succeed and I want you to be a good teacher, and it's not about whether or not you get an A or a B, it's about whether or not your teaching scenario goes well, so that you know that this is what you're meant to do and this is what you continue to do. And that was a really cool thing. Which, speaking of grades, this is the first class I've ever been in that I haven't worried about my grade. And I actually called my mom after the first couple days and told her, and she always said that was such a good thing for me, because grades was something that did control my life. And it was just something that I lived for and something I tried to go. And a lot of it is based on scholarships and stuff, but I also realized there's so much more to it than just that grades, and that was a really cool thing for me to see and me to learn and me to be I don't need those. I don't need to know my percentage every minute. I guess first, too, it was also the first time I've cried in front of that many people or felt that comfortable in front of that many people. And looking back, and when I called my mom and kind of told her about what the exercise was and what that was like, is she was blown away, and she thought that was so cool, and that I was cool that we were all so vulnerable with each other when we really hadn't been friends that long. So I feel like this class brought me a lot of first and changed the way that I view a lot of things when it comes to college. And you helped lead that. You helped lead that with your one-on-one meetings, and I feel like that made us all vulnerable. These are one-on-one meetings that I want to have with my students now too, and while that might be harder in a high school way, I know I can do it, and I know that the end game will be worth it because it created such a positive and happy situation for all of us that wouldn't have happened had we not had that. And along with that, I think too, like in my classroom, I know I want to focus a lot on like world issues and current events and give students a chance to reflect on that and talk about that. And I really, really was worried as I thought about that becoming a teacher that I wouldn't be able to keep my own personal opinions and issues out of it when it came to that. But it was like you were this perfect example of how to do that, because we really did talk about a lot of stuff that could have been really controversial and could have really upset some people and started some conversations that were uncomfortable. And I mean, especially my book, when you think about Reign of Error, we talked a lot about No Child Left Behind and Race to the Top and funding and corporate reformers and all of that. That could have very easily gone controversial, and it did for a little bit, but it was like I left that day not knowing what you felt or what side you were on, but just that you were very educated on both sides. And when I think about me becoming a teacher, I think that's a big one that I want to do too, and I want to model that. I think too that there's so many other things in this class. Like one of them would say the teaching opportunities, and I feel like I was brought outside this comfort zone that I didn't even know I really had when I was teaching people like this. The first one was really hard for me, and I think it was really hard for a lot of people in our class, and we didn't really know how to do it, what to do, how to measure whether or not we were successful, how to best create this lesson plan, and how to tie in all of our notes and stuff. It really did get easier though. That was cool to see. And the last one, I felt good, and I really did feel all of my doubts about teaching or what I'm supposed to do go away. And that was such a calming and like freeing feeling that maybe I am right and I'm not wasting my time, and that's something that I can't ask for anything more. And even when I think about like writing my philosophies of teaching, this class really made me think about like what I want to be as a teacher. And I actually just reread my first one that we wrote at the beginning of the year, and then I reread my old one that I just wrote, and then I reread my one I just wrote and turned in now. And I've grown so much in the way that I want to do, and most of the things are things I want to implement, or something that like we did in our classroom, or something that you showed us, or something you made us comfortable exploring and taking on. And that's a really cool thing to all happen in one class, and I know it will continue as I move on in my teaching ways. I guess the service learning in this class too was something that I never really thought about. It was interesting, and I got a lot of different personalities with this. I got to go to the Meadowlark and work with the elderly population, and I also got to coach a little girls volleyball team in a regional volleyball tournament, along with tutor a young boy who had just had a brain injury. It was just a lot of different things that I feel like I got a lot out of. And when I look back on it too, it actually got me a lot of connections. From tutoring the young boy, I've gotten offered 2 more times to tutor and get paid for it after that, which I know isn't the end goal, but it was kind of cool to see that like good work pays off, and these connections and doing things well and caring about things and doing service for people is always gonna, I mean, I believe it's the good Lord coming back around to get involved in it. It also helped me figure out like what I was really good at and what I was bad at. When it came to tutoring the young boy in 7th grade, I wasn't very good at always being like, okay, we need to keep going, we need to keep pushing through, because he was obviously in some pain and stuff, and so it was hard for me to be like empathetic with him, and also try to get him to, it's hard for me to be empathetic with him and also try to get him to do the work, because he was obviously going through some stuff. So that was a really cool thing, and I know that service learning is something that, if possible, I would love to implement in my classroom, and I think it can have ties on it. I think it can be done in different ways, but I'm definitely thinking about it, and that's a mindset that I never even had. When I think about the facilitations that are in this class, which I think is one of the biggest and most important parts of this class, I really do look back and think that I could teach all of the facilitations. I remember so much about all of them, and it was cool to see these groups like work together and get closer, and everyone's different personalities were all within each everyone's personalities like shined through each of the groups that they did, and they all were able to like showcase and teach in their own separate ways. My group taught me so much and a lot about like patience, and when you talked about the girl who, or the person who does everything and overtakes the group and tries to get all the work done, I was like eye-opening that totally was me. So I tried so much harder to get better at like understanding delegation and understanding what people need and who likes to work in what situation, but that they will get things done, and like truly 110% believing that they will, and getting rid of that doubt set them up for success, and it set me up for success. It also taught me a lot, like watching myself on tape. I was really uncomfortable, but it really did help me learn a lot. And this kind of made me think about how this applies to all the different teaching styles and like learning styles as well, because while one person might have learned more from reading comments about their classmates or just like experiencing it and seeing how it went, I learned so much from just watching it on tape, and that was a really cool thing. And then when I like looked back at the class and I was thinking about everything that we did in it, I couldn't help thinking about how much that I learned that wasn't in a lesson form. And so much that we were learning to be good teachers was the stuff that you were implementing and you were doing. And you never told us that we should do it. You never told us that we should consider doing this. You never told us that it was going to be most beneficial if we did this as classrooms. It just happened because we saw you be so successful in doing it that we wanted to do it as well. And when I think about working with high school students, and I can't tell them how to be good people, how to be good community members, I can't tell them how to interact best with people, how to be kind and servant-hearted and good people, but I can show them, and if they have the amount of respect for me that we did for you, and they have the amount of respect for one another that we did for you, this is going to put them in like a completely, if I can get that for me, then I will set them up for success by just my actions and by just living, and by living my life the way that I want to live it. And I think that's something so cool and so beautiful that I never really thought about before. And I know I talked a lot about things that you did in the learning community, but when I think about when I reflect on what I learned most in this course, that was it. And I learned a lot about teaching and how to best do that, but it was a lot more of like how to be a better person and how much that will affect my students in the classroom and how much that can affect me. And the amount of lesson plans I don't have to draw up about how it takes to be a good person if I can just live that out every day and create a level of respect for my students. So this class was my favorite class all semester and my favorite class that I've ever been in, because I just felt like I walked away with a whole new mindset that you can't really get anywhere else. So thank you for all of this, and I hope if I don't get to have you some other day, I hope we can meet sometime and talk, and thank you for everything that you did.